everybody, it's Maddie here. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can crochet this tiny little ribbon bow. This is a super easy and quick crochet project, and this is a beginner's tutorial, so if you're new to crocheting, this is a perfect project. Also, you can use this bow to tie on a whole bunch of different things. You could tie this on your bag, which I have done, and I love it. It is the cutest thing ever. You could tie it on baskets. There are so many different possibilities with this. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin crocheting. To begin making our bow, we're not going to start our slip knot at the tail of the yarn. We actually need to take quite a bit of yarn like this. Just kind of unweave it so you have a little pile here, and this is where the tail is. You want to make like a little pile of that, about this much. It really just depends on how long you want your ribbon to be. So you may have less yarn of this, or you could have more yarn of this. I'm just going to do quite a bit. That seems pretty good. And then here is where we're going to be putting our slip knot. So here we got the tail in this big blob of yarn, and then over here we have our skein of yarn. So in the middle of that, we're going to make a slip knot. And to do that, we're going to take our yarn and we're going to cross it over to make a loop like this. Also, the tail that is connected to the big skein of yarn is crossed on top of this piece of yarn here where it makes an X by that loop. So after you've made the loop, you're going to stick your fingers through the back side of the loop, and then we're going to grab the tail end of this yarn here. And we're going to pull that through like this. And then we're going to go ahead and pull that tight till you get a little slip knot. And then we're going to go ahead and put our hook on the loop, and when you pull on the tail side of your yarn like this, it should tighten up that slip knot. And now we're ready to begin working on our tiny bow. So after you've made the slip knot, I went ahead and moved my skein of yarn in this string to the left side of where I'm going to be working, and then I moved the tail end to the right side, just so I will be able to know which string is which, because sometimes that can get a little bit confusing. Also, this is not a very traditional way of crocheting, so that's why we have like the two strands, because we're going to be working with both of them as we make our bow. So the main working yarn is going to be the string that is attached to the big skein of yarn, and this is the yarn that I'm going to go ahead and wrap around my hands as my normal working yarn, and then this tail is going to stay like the tail normally would. I'll show you what to do with that once we begin crocheting. Also, the way I hold my yarn is I wrap it around my finger like this, just laying on my pinky, and then I wrap it around my 3 fingers here, and then I hold my work with my thumb and my middle finger like this, and I have my pointer finger kind of pointed up to keep this yarn elevated as I'm like working with it. And then to control the tension, I will open my pinky to give it less tension, and then I'll kind of like close my pinky to give it more tension on the yarn. That's how I've always held my yarn, but if you hold it another way, you do you, because I don't really know if this is very traditional. I really don't know. All right, now we can begin making our bow. So with this tail, we're going to wrap it around our hook like this, so we kind of have those 2 loops on our hook. And you're going to want to hold this tail down along with like that slip knot like this, just pinching that so that doesn't come unraveled. And then we're going to yarn over with our working yarn, and we're going to pull through both of those 2 loops just like that. And now we kind of completed like 1 stitch, and that first stitch is always going to be the hardest because we don't have much to hold on to as we're working. But basically we're going to be repeating that till we have the length of the ribbon that you want. I'm going to go ahead and show you again. We're going to take that tail into the yarn, and we're going to wrap it around the hook, and then holding that in place along with our work, holding that with my thumb and my middle finger, I can then go ahead and yarn over with my working yarn and pull through both of the loops, just like that. So now we've made like the 2nd stitch. So again, we're going to take the tail into the yarn, and we're going to wrap it around the hook, and I'm going to hold that in place with my thumb and my middle finger, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops, just like that. Also, when you wrap the tail around the hook, you want to make sure you wrap it towards the back, so it's going on top towards the back like this, because you don't want to be wrapping it from the back to the front, because that is not going to create the stitch that you want. Make sure you're bringing that tail up to the back like this. So we're going to wrap it around the hook, hold it in place, yarn over, and pull through both loops, just like that. And then we get this like little cord stitch thing. This may take some practice to get used to crocheting like this, but once you get it, it should be pretty easy. So wrap it, make sure you're holding it, And then you're gonna yarn over and pull through both of the loops. And then you're just gonna repeat that till you have the length of a ribbon that you like. I don't do a stitch count or anything because I just like to do these stitches till it becomes the length that I like. I'm gonna go ahead and continue this till I like the length of the ribbon, and I'll show you how we can like tie that into a bow and different ways that we can use this. This is what it's starting to look like. Okay, just finished crocheting to the length that I like. It's about this long, probably around like 2 feet when you kind of stretch it out, because this cord will actually stretch quite a bit. And so it kind of is longer than what you actually think, because it's kind of like a stretchy cord. I did probably around 90 stitches. I think I kind of just guesstimated that. But anyway, I'm happy with the length. And so now what we can do is go ahead and grab our scissors and cut the string that is connected to the big skein of yarn. I'm also leaving a little bit of a tail, probably about like 5 inches or so. So just went ahead and cut that. And then also for the tail part of the yarn that we were working with there, I still have some leftovers, which is fine. I'd rather have too much left over than not enough to finish the length that I want for the ribbon. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim that off as well. And then to fasten this off, I'm just going to pull my hook up like this so that loop comes out. And then you can go ahead and tighten that a little bit. I like to pull on both the tails to tighten the whole thing. And now we have our crocheted little ribbon cords that we can use to make a bow. The only thing we have to do before we can tie this into a bow is to sew in the ends. So with my yarn needle, I'm gonna go ahead and thread one of the tails through the yarn like this. And then we can go ahead and just weave that through some of the stitches like this. And then you just wanna sew in that tail, blending it in as much as possible into that cord. Once you sewed it through quite a bit, you can then just go ahead and chop off that tail. And then we're gonna do the same for the other tail. Just go ahead and sew that tail into our stitches. And then just go ahead and chop that off. So now you can't see the tails anymore. And then you'll be left with your ribbon. And now I'll show you a few ways that you can turn this into a bow, and if you want to tie this onto anything. If you want to tie this onto a bow without tying it on something, it is a little bit difficult, but it's like tying a shoelace. And I kind of tie my shoelaces a little weird. I'll show you how I do it. I'm probably not going to show you how to do this in detail because I actually don't know how I do it. But I get the yarn or ribbon or cord or whatever you want to call this into a position like this, and then I grab the other two sides and then pull it to make a bow, but I don't know how to describe how I do that. I'll show you again how I do that. So you want to make like a little Z, and then with this hand, you're going to grab this part of the yarn, and then with this hand, you're going to grab this part of the yarn. So like this, and then pull that tight. And then I'm also holding the two tails here to be able to make that into a cute little bow, even though that's kind of uneven. If you are successful at making a bow like that and you have never done that before, that's great, but I don't know if I'll be able to teach you very well. I barely know how that works, but it does work. But to tie the bow another way is to make a loop like this, and then using the longer strand here, we're going to wrap it around, covering the thumb and your pointer finger that's holding that loop together. From here, we're going to move the yarn till we can like kind of push it through this area here to get another loop, and then just kind of wiggle it to make it into a bow, just like that. And that's another way you can make a cute little bow. I will say it is easier to tie the bow onto something rather than just making a bow like this. So I'll show you how to do that next. Here I have a water cup, so I'm going to tie the bow onto this handle here. So with your cord, you're just going to go ahead and tie a knot, just a basic knot, onto the cup like this. You also want to make sure that the two ends are equal. So like you tie that knot directly in the center. And then from here you can tie it like you tie a shoelace. So you can do the little bunny method where you have the two loops and then you tie that into a knot somehow. I never tie shoes like this, but let me see if I can get this here. Yeah, like this. And then you have cute little bow. And then there's also the method where you make one little loop and then you wrap it around and push it through that loop here, and then tighten that and adjust it to make sure it looks nice. And there's a cute little bow. And then this is the way I tie my shoes, but I don't think a lot of people tie their shoes like this, so I'll show you anyway. I loop it around like this to kind of make like a little Z, and then I will grab each of the sides like this and then pull it tight. that is how I tie my shoes, but you can tie it however way you want, and you have a cute little bow, and you can put this on so many different things. Now you've decorated your little cup. Oh, that's really cute. I do like that. There's your finished little bow. This is definitely one of the quickest projects I've made because it only takes like 15 minutes to make. And there's so many different things that you could use this for and put on. And if you want, you can use this with tons of different types of yarns to give you some different like textures and size bows that you like. I made one of these bows with some of that furry, soft plush yarn, and that turned out so cute. I really like that one as well. But you could even make this with some really thick yarn and have like a big bow size if you wanted. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and let me know what you plan on using this little bow for. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!